Do you avoid certain people, places, or situations because of anxiety? Or maybe you don't avoid them, but you do something before to make it easier. Like having a drink, smoking, distracting yourself. What if those things are actually keeping your anxiety alive? Hi, I'm Scarlett Classic, and welcome to Classic Advice, a mental health podcast offering guidance for resilient souls anchoring calm amid the chaos. Have you ever heard of safety behaviors? What are safety behaviors? Safety behaviors are things that we do to reduce anxiety in the moment. And you don't have to have quote unquote anxiety like a really bad for this episode to be of value, because we all experience anxiety to some form or level, whether we really struggle with it on a day-to-day basis or it's just something that pops up every now and then, because we all experience anxiety. It's whether we have it really bad or not, whether it gets fed a lot and it overwhelms us on a day-to-day basis would be, something that would be considered having anxiety really badly. So that being said, safety behaviors are things that we do to reduce anxiety in the moment. And you can have good safety behaviors and then that are really good, healthy coping techniques, or we can have coping techniques or safety behaviors that are not good for us. So examples of things that aren't good for us are drinking right before we go to a social event or social situation that triggers us, that we maybe don't really want to go to, and we have a lot of anxiety leading up to it, or going to a certain place that we know is going to that triggers our anxiety. Maybe something happened in that place that has a lot of emotional connection. Like maybe we got married to our ex-husband at a certain church and now our best friend is getting married in that same church. That's just an example. So that place holds a lot of emotional value to you. And before going to the event, you feel like you need to drink or smoke or constantly check your phone or bring someone with you, which I would think is a good coping technique. Bring someone along with you that knows what you're going through. You can avoid eye contact, or you just plan on leaving early, like go for just as much as you feel is socially acceptable, and then leave. But those things may make the situation feel easier, but they don't actually solve the anxiety. And they're not necessarily healthy coping techniques. They teach your brain that you can only handle this if you do that thing first. So they teach your brain that you can handle it only if you drink first. They teach your brain that you can only handle it if you have a smoke first or bring someone with you, which, is not necessarily a bad thing. But learning to do things on our own is also a good thing to teach yourself to do. Avoiding eye contact, leaving early, or checking your phone on a constant basis are not the best ways to handle this. So they teach your brain that it worked in the past, it got you through the event in the past, so it teaches your brain that you can only handle this if you do those things first. Whether or not we know that drinking to excess or drinking before or smoking before or whatever, we know that those aren't necessarily good for us, or maybe we want to stop drinking, or we want to stop smoking, or we want to stop always having to bring someone with us, or we want to stop feeling that need and desire to check our phone every 5 seconds because we feel like that keeps us safe. The trap is it works once and you get the relief. So your brain says, do it again. The loop is anxiety, behavior, the relief, and then you repeat. And it's this constant cycle. And you might be very well aware of the cycle, but you don't know how to stop. You don't know how to get off the hamster wheel, so to speak. Short-term relief. These are all short-term relief that come with long-term problems. What is it that you do to handle your anxiety? For myself, years ago, I would avoid places. I just wouldn't go. I wouldn't even show up. I would be so anxious about things. Or I would show up and I could put on a brave face for the time that it took to be there. And then I would be a complete mess for days afterwards. I would need days to recoup and try to find my footing again. Because I was so worn out from the anxiety of doing whatever it was that the event that I had to go to or the person that I saw just brought up so much hurt and pain that I didn't know how to deal with. And sometimes it would be incapacitating. I would feel so broken. And then I would turn off my emotions and dissociate, almost feel numb from everything because I didn't want to feel anything. And that's not a healthy coping technique at all. Before the event or before we go see the person or have to go to the place, we feel anxious. And because we feel anxious, we want to do something in order to feel calmer. And whatever we do to bring our calm in, that's what the brain reinforces. Teaching yourself a different way to calm down. We need to repeat it over and over and over again to reinforce it with our brain that brings calm. Because it worked, you're more likely to do it again. So we just have to swap out what we want our safety behavior to be. And this can be really tricky if you couple it with an addiction. Smoking is addictive. Drinking is addictive. So that brings a whole other mix of things in that I personally don't have experience with. I used to drink every now and then. I've since stopped. I gave it up entirely. I don't even want to drink anymore. So I don't. But it wasn't anything that I was ever addicted to. So for me to decide I'm not going to drink anymore was very easy. And I've smoked in the past, but I quit that too. So right now in my present state, I don't really have anything like that is addictive. What I did when I was really struggling with PTSD and anxiety is I started to journal. And like I've said before in my past episodes, when my anxiety and panic attacks were at their peak and I was really struggling getting a hold of my PTSD, because I would get triggered, which would trigger a panic attack, which is all coupled with anxiety. So I was a real mess. I brought my journal everywhere with me, and I trained my brain that journal brought calm. And I did it over and over and over again. I didn't go anywhere without my journal and pen. I didn't go anywhere without it. And I started over the repeated process of bringing it out and writing, and bringing it out and writing and writing and writing over and over again whenever I got triggered, trained my brain that book, that journal equaled calm. And I created the loop for myself that was my safety behavior from now on. And you might not like journaling. You might want to do something else. And there's more than one, healthy coping technique that we can have. Maybe you really enjoy tea. And every time you have anxiety, you go make yourself a cup of tea. And hold it in your hand and just breathe and drink it. And by the time the cup is gone, you can bring calm back into your life. Maybe it's going for a walk. Walking and putting your body into movement, like I've said before, relieves stress because it gives your body something to do. What is it that you want? And you can pick and choose and pick what safety behavior you want yours to be. Just because mine was journaling doesn't mean yours has to be. Teaching your brain that I can't handle this without said safety behavior that's not good for us, that I need this crutch, your confidence doesn't grow in that moment. Your dependency on that bad habit, on that bad coping technique does. Shifting. If you want change, you're going to need to expose yourself and practice these new safety behaviors, whatever one you want to do, over and over and over again until it sticks, until your brain starts to associate that safety behavior with calm. Because it's not going to happen overnight. And that's what's hard about That's what's so hard about mental health, is the things that work, the things that are good, healthy coping techniques for us when we're trying to retrain the brain. It's not a easy thing to do, and having patience with yourself to just stick with it until it does stick. It will, but you need to have the patience with yourself to get there. Your brain needs time to adjust and learn the different coping techniques. And you're not broken. And having really good self-talk and being patient with yourself and talking positively with yourself that you can swap these things out, that it is possible, even though it feels hard. It's important to remember that it's not going to feel as effective at first. New coping skills feel weaker at first just because they're new, but it doesn't mean that they can't become strong. Just like putting reps in at the gym. When you first lift a heavy dumbbell, it's going to feel heavy, but when you put in the reps over and over and over again, your muscles get stronger, and eventually that same dumbbell won't feel as heavy even though the weight hasn't changed. You've changed. You evolved. You can rewire your brain. Repetition builds new pathways in the brain. Teaching your brain that I can handle this and I don't need that old safety behavior. The more you practice, the more natural it's going to become. And you're not going to fall into those old bad coping techniques. And you'll find yourself putting on your shoes to go for the walk. You'll find yourself reaching for the journal and the pen without even really realizing or being super intentional that you're doing it, because you've made it a habit. You created that new neural pathway. If this is you, if you're relying on something to get you through that you know isn't good for you, and you want so badly to stop, you're not broken. I want to make that so very clear. You are not broken. You've just learned a pattern. So start small. Try something different. Try something new. Whatever it is that appeals to you the most. Walking, deep breathing, meditation, journaling. Whichever one seems to vibe with you best, that you think that you would like best. And there's guided meditations. I use them. I don't use them every day, but I've used them lots in the past. You don't need to avoid your life. I don't want you missing out on beautiful opportunities and beautiful experiences and good conversation with people. I don't want you avoiding your life, because I want you to be able to live life to the fullest, and I want that for me too. That's why I get so passionate sometimes on these episodes, because it's so important for me that each and every one of us get the most out of life, because we can heal, and we can grow, and we can move on from our anxiety, and we can control it instead of it controlling us. You don't have to rely on things that aren't helping you long term. You can learn a new way, one step at a time. Thank you for tuning in to Classic Advice, guidance for resilient souls. May you stay anchored in what steadies you, rise resilient through what challenges you, and carry calm into whatever comes next. Take care. Love ya. Bye.